Hello everybody, welcome. It's Juliet here. Today we are going to be making this extremely fancy earring. I mean, this is quite the statement earring here. I'm thinking like, you would need to have somewhere really dressy to wear this. However, my job is to inspire you. So you can simplify this earring if you want to. If you're not going to a red carpet event, certainly, you could do what you like with it. So there is an 18 by 13 millimeter oval, crystal oval, okay, and which is from Beebeecraft, and I will put links for everything I'm using down below. This really nice earring finding is also from Beebeecraft, as are my 4mm bicones are from Beebeecraft, and this gorgeous 12mm cotton pearl is also from Beebeecraft. And the nice thing about it is it's large, but it weighs hardly anything. They're really lightweight. So if you're making a large earring or something like that and you want to save the weight, this is a good option. So anyway, this is my earring. I am calling it the Sultan earring, and I'll show you the side. So you can see on the side there is like these drapes at the front and the back over the pearl, and then the back has a really nice like it's all closed up on the back. I don't like to leave my backs open, so the back of the bezel looks really pretty as well. So even if somebody's behind you and you have your hair up, the earring is going to look nice. So I'll quickly run through everything. Like I said, go to Beebeecraft for most of this stuff, is where I got it, okay? And you can use the code JULES10, which will give you 10% off your order, okay? So you will need an earring finding. You're going to need some 4mm bicones. Mine came out of this big set that I got, and I am using the let me just show you really quickly here. Okay, so in these like metallic ones at the front here, I'm using this blue metallic coated bicone. I considered using, this is a blue as well, but it's more of a purplish blue, and I needed more of a greenish blue because I'm using green crystals. So I went with this metallic one, and I actually really like how it came out. I think it looks really cool. This set, by the way, really good value. You get I think 24 different colors, and these seem like perfectly good bicones. Like, I'm really quite impressed with them. So I'm really glad I got this. Anyway, you will need some 12mm cotton pearls if you're doing it exactly the way I am. You're going to need some 15Os, some 11Os, and some 11O delicas. So for my 15s and 11s, I'm just using Miyuki galvanized gold, number 1052, okay? And for my delicas, you can use whatever color, depending on what color your crystal is, pick a color. I'm using Miyuki Delica number 286, okay? But I mean, you don't have to follow my color scheme at all. And my 18 by 13 crystal also came from Beebeecraft in this big pack of 50 different crystals. So I'm using, as you can see here, there's this green. There is a darker green as well there. I think there's a lighter green as well. But anyway, there's tons of different colors in here. So many pretty colors. So you can see like the backs aren't quite as nice as, a premium crystal, but the front, you cannot tell. You really cannot tell. So, and I always, as I said, like to cover my back anyway. So really, go for it. I mean, 50 oval crystals for, a lot less money is a good deal in my opinion. Okay. I am using a size 10 beading needle, and I am Today I am using a nylon thread, Miyuki thread, so I recommend you use that. You're going to need about 4.5 feet, I would say. I've probably got a little bit longer than that, but just to be safe. But I did this whole thing with one piece of thread, so you might not need that much, but I just like to get a nice long piece before I start. Okay, so we're going to start by bezeling our crystal, and we're going to use a right angle weave bezel. You can see the right angle weave along the side there. So hang on one second, let me just get organized and then we'll get started. Okay, so to begin, you're going to pick up 4 of your 11O beads, and you're going to push them down and leave yourself a 4-inch tail as you normally would. Okay, so there's my tail end there. And you're going to sew through all 4 again from the tail end to the front so that it forms a loop kind of around your finger, okay? And then when you pull it, there's a little loop of thread, and then you're going to sew through the very first one more time. And then that is going to form into a square like this, okay? Now we're going to pick up, so we're going to do a modified right angle weave because this is going to save us time in the long run, okay? So you're going to pick up 1 delica, and then you're going to pick up 3 of your gold beads, okay? So I'm coming out here. I'm going to enter into this top bead going towards where my thread is coming out, okay? Like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my tail thread, make sure it's above this blue bead, and I'm going to sew through the next bead. Okay, so we now have this. I'm going to do the same again. So you pick up 1 delica and 3 of your 11O rounds. Again, you just sew through that top bead towards your thread, okay? Then you make sure that your working thread is on top of the blue bead, above it, and then you go through the gold bead right after, okay? And see how we're making a little chain here, and it has blue beads in between, okay? So you're just going to keep repeating this process until you have 16 of these delicas, okay? So right now I have 2, so I have a little ways to go. I'll do it just one more time for you. So you pick up your 1 and your 3, coming out here, you go through the bead towards your thread, okay? Make sure that your thread passes over that delica, and then you're going to go up into the first gold bead. So this is what I'm talking about, making sure your thread passes over the delica, and it's not like stuck behind the delica, okay? So, and you'll notice as you work, it does start to slightly curve, okay? So keep going until you have 16, and then we'll come back and join it into a ring. Okay, so I have 16 delicas now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And what we have to do is now join the front to the back. So what I like to do is I like to just flip it around my finger, and I'm just going to hold that tail in place for a second while I work on the other end here, okay? And actually I want my tail to be on the outside of my finger so that it's not going to get in the way. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up a delica and a 11/0. You're going to sew through the 11/0 that is at the bottom of the start. Okay, so this is the start. I'm holding my tail. Okay, so you're going to sew through that through that 11/0. Okay. Then you're going to pick up one more of your 11/0s, and you see this 11/0 that's here on the where I was working. Okay, so I'm going to sew through that one, and I'm just keeping on top of all my other threads here. Okay, so I'm coming out the side right here now. Okay, again, you're going to skip that delicate that we just added. You're going to sew through the gold bead above the delica, and then you'll notice we're missing one delica right here. So you're going to just pick up a delica and sew into the next gold bead. So now our ring is joined. Okay, so it's really not difficult at all to join those two together. And then what I like to do next is I'm going to sew through all of the delicas and gold beads on this one side right here. And you'll know when you get back to where you started, because that is where your starting tail is. Okay, so I'm coming out this gold bead that my starting tail is coming out from. All right, so just go ahead and sew through all of those beads and kind of pull them together a little bit so that they tighten in. Okay. Okay, so I've sewn through all of my beads, and you can see that it is pulling in more on this side of the ring now. Okay, so it's a little bit tighter on the side where our delicas are. Next, we are going to add some 15/0s, and this is just kind of a decoration on the front. Okay, so this is going to be the front side of our bezel here. Okay. So what you're going to do, I'm coming out from the 11/0 where I started. You're going to sew into the next delica. And then you're going to pick up a 15/0, and you're just going to skip over the next 11/0 and sew into the next delica. Okay? And go ahead and pull quite tight here. Okay? And your 15/0 will sit next to your 11/0. So you'll know if you're doing it right because it'll be sitting. Then again, pick up another 15, skip the 11, and sew into the next delica. So we're just sewing into the delicas here. And again, I'm pulling quite tight, trying to kind of pull that delica upwards a little bit, okay? Because right now it's kind of sitting a little bit below the 11s. So just, so we're going to go all the way around doing that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm about to add my last one, which is where my tail is, and you want to make sure that your tail stays on the outside of your bezel. If you get it trapped inside, it's going to be hard to weave it in at the end. So make sure that you pull that tail on top to the outside, okay? So that it does not disappear and then you can't weave it in. Okay, so there we are. So this is now the front of my bezel, okay? So now we have to sew the back and pop in our stone, obviously. So I'm coming out from the last delica that I sewed into. I'm going to sew forward through the next 11/0, and then I'm going to just turn. And instead of turning and reversing, because I want to stitch in this direction, it's the direction that I normally stitch in, I'm going to go straight forward. If you prefer to stitch in this direction, you can go backwards, but I want to stitch in this direction. So I'm kind of cheating, and instead of going back, I'm going forward so that I can stitch in the direction that I prefer, okay? All right, so here we are. This is our little bezel here. So the first thing we're going to need to do is the same as what we did on the back. We're going to put a delica in between each one of these 11 O's. So just pick up a delica and go into the next 11 O. And when you get nearly done, you're going to need to pop your stone in. I mean, you can still put it in, but I like to put it in just so that my tension gets good around it, okay? So go ahead and pop all of those delicas in, going around the bezel, okay? Okay, I'm about to put in my last delica here, and you can see that I have put my stone in just to kind of help a little bit. Now it's not gonna stay in at this point, okay? It's just I'm trying to establish my tension. So go ahead and go through the next 11 and the next delica and give it all a tug, and then at this point, when you're going around, you can start to try and center your bezel on your stone. So see how here it's like tipped up a little bit. So I'm just trying to kind of stretch it out over the stone a little bit as I go, okay? On this next round. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing that we did before, which is we're going to add 115O between each delica. So I'm coming out from a delica, skip the 11, and go into the next delica. And make sure that when you're doing this, you are giving it a nice little inwards tug. You know, just kind of give it a little pull, just to pull that delica upwards a little bit, okay? You don't have to pull super tight. In fact, I would recommend you don't pull super tight, but just enough so that it does start to move in towards the center, okay? And you can, as you go, you can kind of adjust your tension so that the side is forming a nice side. All right, so just go from delica to delica, skipping over the 11 O's all the way around. And when I have finished that, I will come back to you in just a minute. Okay, so I am nearly back to the beginning, and your bezel should now hold your stone in. You shouldn't, once you've gotten this far around, it shouldn't be falling out anymore, okay? If you've been pulling inwards as you're working, it should be holding you in. So I have one more. Okay, so you've finished by sewing through your last delica and adding that last gold 15O there, okay? Now we need to align our bezel with our stone, okay? So what you want is, if you look at the ends and you see a square, okay? There's one of our squares. You want that middle, those two of the beads to line up more or less with the center. So I need to just spin around a little bit. So you can just kind of gently wiggle your bezel a little bit until you get kind of lined up. So basically what you want is you want two of your 15 O's along that center line like this, okay? So see how I have this one here and this one down here, which means there is a gap on the shorter side between two 15 O's, okay? So there's a gap and there's a gap, okay? Got it? And depending on where you are on your bezel is going to depend on what bead you're going to add next, okay? So from the gap, you're going to go 1, 2, 3. So that those three will all be 11 O's plus these two. So you're going to have 5 11 O's. So the middle is like your third 11 O, okay? So 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to have 4 15 O's in between. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is move forward from our delicate into the next gold bead, the next 15 O. And then, okay, so if this is going to be an 11, an 11, 11, so I need to add a 15 O here, okay? And this may be different for you. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. So that one is going to be a 15, as well as this one, and this one. So you're going to have 4 15s at the bottom, and you're going to have 5 11s on the side. So I've just picked up my first 11 O. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more, 5, okay, so there are my 5 side 11 O's. Then I pick up 4 15 O's for the end. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to pick up 5 11 O's again on the side. So 1, and once I've got my other 5, I pick up 4 more 15s at the end. Except I already do have 1 15 on place, so I'm just adding 3 15s. Okay. So it should now look like this. So you have 5 11s on each side, and you have 4 15s on the top and the bottom. Okay? Okay, so you're going to move forward until you're coming out from one of the first 15 O's. Sorry, the first 11 O's. So I'm just sewing through the next couple of beads, okay? So if you need to just pass around until you're coming out from the first of one of the 11 O's on the side, okay? And you're going to pick up 5 15 O's. Okay, so 5. You're going to go from the first one to the third 11 O and make a little loop like this, okay? And then again, you're going to pick up 5, and you're going to sew into the 5th of the 5 beads right here, okay? Then you're going to pick up 2 15s, 1 11, and 2 15s. So 2 15, 1 11, 2 15 O's. You're going to sew from this 11 all the way over to the first of the 5 on the other side. Okay, so like this. It's going to sit in there like that, okay? You're going to repeat on this side, so 5 15 O's go into the third 11 O, 5 15 O's again, go into the 5th 11-0. And again, we're going to pick up 2 15s, 1 11, and 2 15. Okay, and you're going to sew into the 11 where your first loop is coming out from. So just sew directly across the way into that 11. Okay, so like this. Now you're going to sew up the first 3 15-0s. So you're coming out from the middle 15-0. So you should have the 11 and then 3 15-0s, okay? You're going to pick up 3 15-0s. You're going to sew into the next, on the next hump, the 3rd bead, so like the top bead, okay? So like this. Then you're going to pick up 2 15s. You're going to sew into the 11 that is on this little string right here, okay? Okay, like this. So it's going to start to flatten down, okay? You're going to pick up 2 more 15s. You're going to sew into the 3rd one on the next peak. Okay, and you're going to pick up 3 15s. You're going to sew into the next peak right here. So like this. And then you're going to pick up 2 15s. You're going to sew into the 11 right here, okay, on that little strand that's going across. And you're going to pick up 2 more 15s and sew into, you'll see your hump right here. It's the one that has the 3 going across. You want to sew into that very first, that bead kind of at the junction there. Okay, that 15 that's hanging out right there. Okay, so sew into that one and pull. Okay, you can kind of smush it down with your fingers. Then you're going to sew up through the next 2 central 15s. So that little group of 3 are going through the first 2. Okay, so you're coming out from that middle one right there. You're going to pick up 1 15-0. You're going to sew through that middle again on the opposite side, going back the other. So keep sewing like in a circular manner. So if my thread's coming out, you want to enter in that way, okay? And then you're going to pick up 1 more and you're going to sew into the 2nd bead on this side that you just came out from a second ago, okay? And it's going to create like a little square like that in the middle, okay? And what I like to do is I like to go around and kind of reinforce the middle area. So I go up through the square here, and I'm just going to kind of go down here. So just reinforce anything that you feel like needs reinforcing. And once you've done that, leave your thread attached because you should still have plenty of thread. So I'm going to reinforce a little bit and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so once you've kind of reinforced enough that you feel happy, you're going to make your way to the outside. However, you know, you want to go depending on where you ended up, okay? So I'm just gonna sew through some beads to get there. And once you get to the outside, get into one of the gold beads that is on the right angle weave, okay? And then you're gonna look at your back, and wherever your two kind of points are, you can see like on the motif on the back, where those two are, that's the center, which means this bead right here is the center, okay? Which means that this bead and this bead are two beads that I am going to attach two bicones onto, okay? So what you're going to do is look at where you are and how to get back over to one of those two beads. So I need to get over to this bead. So I'm going to have to go around here and then work my way up. So that just kind of use the right angle weave and the delicas to get yourself over to where you need to be. So I just turned around and I'm working my way up through the front here. And I just need to double check where that bead, yeah, so that's my center bead, so I need to get to this bead here. And it doesn't matter if you're coming out on the front or the back, okay? So come out from not the center bead, but the next bead over, okay? And you're going to pick up one of your 4mm bicones. You're going to pick up 3 of your 15 O's, and you're going to pick up another of your bicones. And what we're doing here is we're just making a little loop for our earring to hang on. If you don't want to use beads, you could use a little piece of French wire. If you want to use a wire guardian instead, that's fine too, okay? So I'm coming out the back of this bead. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're coming out the back or the front, but pay attention to whether you're coming out the back or the front. So that's my center bead right here next to it, okay? This is the bead I'm coming out of. This is my center bead, and then this is the next bead. So because my thread came out the back, I'm going to enter in from the back to the front. I'm going to go back up through my bicone and all of these little beads up here. Okay, and back down through the bicone on that side. And then because I started at the back here, I'm going to enter into the front, and that way the bead is connected both at the front and the back of that bead, okay? And I like to go through one more time just because this is what's connecting onto my earring. So I like to just reinforce that area. Okay, so I now have 3 threads going through it, so that should be pretty good, okay? And the next thing I have to do is add my pearl on the bottom. So again, we're going to have to work our way over there. So just follow your right angle weave and pass through the delicas as well on your way over there. Okay, so I'm just sewing around until I get to the bottom. And once you get down to the bottom, you're going to have to determine where that middle bead is. So again, look at where that point is on the back of your bezel and just move forward. So that is my middle bead right there. So I'm almost there. And again, doesn't matter if you come out the front or the back of that middle bead, but just make sure that you come out from that middle bead on the bottom, okay? Then you're going to pick up your pearl, your cotton pearl. You're going to pick up a bicone, and then I like to pick up, on this, I pick up 3 11 O's, okay? Push them all down like this. then you're going to just skip all the 11 O's, and so back up through the bicone and through your pearl, and that will add a kind of little picot like this, okay? And then I was coming out, you can see here, I came out from the back of that central bead, so I'm going to sew into the front of the central bead like this, okay, and give it all a tighten. You can pull on that very bottom bead to help you tighten it up, just that very one right at the bottom, okay? And again, this is something that I like to reinforce, so I go back down through all of that and reinforce that whole cycle, okay? I would recommend. Okay, and once you have your bottom bead attached, you might like it like this. You might not want to add the extra drapes that I added, but I don't know, I like it. You know, more is more, right? But I mean, it's also pretty just with that, but I think this just adds a little bit of something. I don't know. Anyway, so the way I added that is, if you look at where your pearl is attached on, okay, I might be better trying to show you on here. So my pearl is attached on here, and do you see where the 2 points of the last 11s are on the back? You want to make it down to those beads there, okay? So you're going to just again pass through the beadwork. So I'm going through an 11-0, a delica, the next 11-0. Okay, so that's all you really need to pass through is 11-0, delica, 11-0, and then through the central 11-0 right there, okay? And again, doesn't matter if you're coming out the front or the back on this, because you're going to do both at some point. It doesn't matter which one you do first, okay? So coming out from here, you're just going to pick up one of your bicones. You're going to pick up 15 of your 15 O's, okay? So I like to do it in groups of 5. So 5, that's 10, okay, so that's 15, and then pick up another bicone, and then you're going to look across the way and figure out which bead. So I'm coming out the front, so I need to enter into the front here, and I think it's this one right here that I need to go into. Yeah, so I'm just double checking by checking on the back that that is the one that corresponds with that last 11-0, and it is, okay? So you're just going to go, if you're on the front, go in the front. If you're on the back, go in the back. So stay on whatever side you were working on, okay? Then you're going to go back through the bicone, okay? And this time you're going to pick up 20 of your 15 O's. Okay, so pick up 20 and then enter back up into the bicone on the other side and through that 11-0. Okay. And you may need to kind of massage your beads so that they sit properly there. Okay, sorry. When I came out from the bicone, I should have gone in the back because I've already have a thread coming out the front here, so you just have to sew the other way through that bead. You want a thread on the front and the back. Okay, so there, okay. That was the only difference. Okay, so just pay attention. If you already have a thread out the front, you're gonna go in the back when you come back up through that bicone after adding your second strand, okay? So now I'm gonna pick up another of my bicones, and I'm gonna pick up 15 of my 15 O's. And once I've got my 15 O's, I'm going to pick up one more bicone. And even though I'm coming out the front of that bead, that doesn't matter. I am going to go into the corresponding bead that the other bicone is coming out of. So you're just going into the same bead again. And then you're going to go back down through that bicone. So I'm adding the strand on the back. I'm going to pick up 20, and then when I come back up here, I can go in the bicone and then go in the front way so that both bicones are joined on both sides, in other words. Okay, I've got my 20 15 O's on. I am going up through that bicone. Make sure that that goes on the back side this time, and then so I do have a little bit of slack here, so I just need to kind of tighten by pulling on my second strand, and then I can go in the front of that bead, sorry, the back of that bead, because it came out from the front. So, all right. So that is my earring. Now the sewing part of it is complete. So what I would recommend you do is just, I like to meet up with my end and tie a knot. To me, that's just the easiest thing, and then weave in the ends. So I'm gonna just do that. I'm sewing over there. However you can get over there is a good way to go. There's no right or wrong here because your bezel has quite possibly started in a different place than my bezel did. Okay, so here I am. I have met up with my tail, and I am just going to tie a knot. Okay, and now I can weave in my ends and cut those off, and then I just have to attach my earring hook onto the top, and I will be finished. So I'll come back in a second. Okay, it can be a little bit tricky to get the earring finding on, but hopefully you will manage to do that okay. And here we are. So here are my Sultan earrings. You can just kind of massage your little fringes here until they hang kind of nice. Anyway, yeah, they're very much statement earrings, but I like how they turned out. I think they're really pretty and unique and different and kind of, you know, something totally different. So I like the side profile the way it is. I think that's kind of cool as well. So anyway, hopefully you took something away, even if it's just the bezel. From watching this, you know, different way to do a bezel. So, okay guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Do go and check out Beebeecraft, and remember to use that code Jules10 if you want to purchase anything there for a discount. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.